Ah, ladies and gentlemen, this is a special night for me. It's going to take me back, and I promise not to get too emotional at times when I'm talking about stuff. But Jill Jones, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
This is
I don't know
so
much about
awesome.
sports,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm going to try my best. How are you?
So good. I'm fine. This woman is real. She's authentic. She's transparent at times. She tells it like it is. Obviously, she's multi-talented. She's exquisite, but most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, she is a fighter and she is a survivor. Um, so let's just go through my Cliff's notes of a biography for you here. Um, so obviously, born in Lebanon, Ohio.
Yes.
So you correct me if I'm wrong. Going through
That's
this,
my hometown.
um, mother was African American. Your father was Italian, correct?
Mhm.
Raised
Well,
mostly
and
by
now Irish. Apparently, a
well,
lot of
that's
Irish.
yeah. I saw that the other day. Yeah. So
Crazy Irish, Scottish. Yeah.
raised mostly by your grandparents, correct?
Hmm.
Um, your mother married Barry Gordy's brother, your
Yes.
stepfather.
Fuller. Hmm.
Um, and then at 15, when she was managing Tina Marie, you wound up being one of the backup singers, correct?
Yes, I did.
Right. And then obviously you go from that. Tina Marie opens up for Prince. Your paths cross, and obviously you wind up singing back up for Prince for all those years. Uh, so let's talk before we get into the London sessions. I want to go through some of your previous work, and I've got a lot of notes here. I didn't know where to start. Obviously, your debut album took forever to get to get it done.
It did.
Obviously, released in '87. I had to go back and listen to all the work again. The three songs from that particular album that stood out to me were Violet Blue,
Hmm.
the With You cover, which is a lot better than the original,
Yeah.
um, and then My Man. Just sort of like what was it about those three songs that appeal to me so much? Because I know the rest of the album is fantastic as well, but these three particular songs stood out to me more as this is Jill Jones. The other songs are just sort of like happy-go-lucky songs. But these are the three songs that I felt the most.
Hmm. And you'd be correct because I think that they were. It was with you, of course, was Prince from Prince's original, but it had this kind of country leaning feel, and being born in like Ohio and Lebanon, that pretty much Lebanon is very bluegrass oriented. Like I was really around like listening to a lot of bluegrass and different country stuff when I was coming up and blues and all of that. So it was kind of nice to have Steve Stevens play on that and
Mm.
sort of just twang it out a little bit more than what Prince did. He kind of, yeah, I just think we just hit it home a little bit better. My band was kind of leaning into the same thing with the whole Elvis. I was really obsessed with Elvis, actually. I remember I had a video of his One Night with You special, and I always used to keep that video. I loved it. I thought it was just always, I loved him. Still do. And still remember where I was when he died.
Mm.
So, yeah, and I think Violet Blue, I think I had more commitment on those songs. I think I was really present on those.
And then, of course, we come to the next one. Um, Now, did you do the Grand Royals first, or did you do two? You did two first, right?
I did two first.
Okay. So when I went back and listened to those, and it's outstanding again. Uh, Now not going to say dark.
No.
I don't want to say goth.
Mhm.
But that album was really really deep. I could feel it. And the songs that I kept going back to because it was raining here yesterday, like
Oh,
tremendously
no.
rain, and I just kept going back. Head over heels, which kicked me
Uh-huh.
in the gut, and
Yeah,
Kangaroo, which really kicked me in the gut.
right.
Um, Talk about those two songs a little bit and the album as a whole, because again, this was something that I did not expect to hear. The deepness, the richness. How did you feel making the album?
The two album came, you know, years after like my mom had passed away. Like she passed away in 95. and it took me a while to just, I guess I'm a slow, it takes me a while to process things. I was just trying to live life. And then I think Chris and I would get together, and I had initiated a lot of those songs on guitar because a lot of times earlier in the past, I was a more keyboard writer, like on initiating a song on a piano. But because my lifestyle had changed and I was kind of like a little bit more transient at that part of my life, I just had a guitar. And that's where those songs came from. I think Station was maybe one of the first that opened up the move into doing the entire two record. And then a friend of my mother's and a photographer who has done some photos for a lot of Prince people, Dave Honnell, heard all the songs and put them on like a CD at the time and put the cover together and everything else, because I was very like very didn't understand the internet very well. I didn't know what was happening, and he did that. I've always kind of it's funny, there's a pattern there that people are always putting together my stuff and saying put it out, because after a while I was so not really into the music industry anymore during those times. And that album too was specifically very cathartic for me in healing myself a little about all the new turns and twists and things I'd gone through with the death of my mom and
Mhm.
divorce and change, and just kind of just keeping it steady. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, Kangaroo, I just kept playing over and over and over again because it's a song that just resonates so deeply. Okay, we'll talk about the Grand Royals.
Hmm.
Went back and listened to that again. I Many interviews I listened to, and many of the music I listened to. These days, Where Are You Now? Gone and Lily White really struck a chord with me as well. The whole album uh, was fantastic again, but those particular songs, as I was sitting here with my headphones on, I'm like, wow. You want to try to expand on those particular four songs?
Those were kind of demos too. There's even four other ones that were more finished that we were really close to a deal with doing something with Sony or Columbia, but it didn't happen. But um, and I probably will put the other four out just for posterity purposes, but to show the whole project. But so I was working with Ian Ginsberg at that time in New York, and kind of found a good writing partner for those. Um, and we performed as the Grand Royals and actually had a band. Um, those Lily White, and that was a little more political, leaning into, uh, yeah, maybe my more political voice. I think that These Days was written after 9/11 because I was living in New York, and that whole record came a little bit after 9/11, so a lot of
Hmm.
things were shifting. And I think on that record and that partnership I was leaning more back into more it's not country, but it's kind of like folksy kind of
Hmm.
guitar stuff. Yeah, it was leaning into that again.
Uh, Where Are You Now really like kicked me in the gut, to be honest
That
with
was
you.
9/11. Yeah.
Yeah, that. Then we get to I Am. That was sort of like a pick me up. That was sort of a pick me up album.
Did
It was like
so.
you, you were sort of like saying, oh, "All right, it's time to be happy again. It's
Hmm.
time to groove."
True.
Um, Forbidden Love, Living for the Weekend, and Cub Midnight. I was cleaning the house and I'm listening to this and I'm bouncing around and I'm like, oh my goodness,
Hmm.
wow. She's getting back to like the dance thing.
Yeah.
Did you have fun making that?
I did, because that was my friend. I did a lot of the writing with Brinsley Evans, who wrote this fabulous song called I'm Beautiful, Damn It, which Bette Midler sang that one, which I love that song still to this day. But so I think he sang it too when he was in another band back in the day. But what I loved about doing all the dance stuff, I always dabbled with my dance writers, like my dance friends, Willie Washington, Brinsley, all these guys who do dance music, and we'd written a few things along the years, but these were hangovers that we had around. And So it was like, okay, let's just do a dance record and put it out. And my manager at that time, Bill Coleman, was like, yeah, let's just put it out. We've, done all of this. Why not? And it was fun. It was a fun period. I was in my 40s and kind of really you know, feeling in a good place about what I could do. Like I can sing anything.
Well, and I've heard you talk about in other interviews saying that you can't dance.
Mm-mm.
That you're really not a dancer.
My whole
I beg that
family will tell you they never thought I could dance. They were always like making fun of me. I swear they were always like, "She can't dance. Don't ask Jill to dance." Yeah,
because
for real.
I went back to like a live performance of G Spot,
Uh
and
huh.
you're up on stage and you're dancing well.
Yeah, it's part stripper esque with whatever kind of moves that will get you by. I am not. I'm so humbled watching people who dance. I've tried, and if you try to get me to do steps at a wedding, just go catch me at somebody's wedding doing those little and to the right and to the left. And I love those things so much, but I'm so bad at them.
And I have to ask you this because I went way back to I think 1982. I think it was the Dirty Minds tour, or one of them. And you're in Houston. Whose idea was it to strike a pose in the purple bikini?
I don't
Is it
know.
was that spontaneity, or is
Yeah, I
you're just
mean,
like the hell with it?
yeah, it was like, well, I was, yeah, it was funny. What else are you going to do in a bikini? Oh my
It, wa-
God, I
it's,
know.
yeah, and the videos out there, YouTube. Like
And
I
that was
said,
my favorite, like, with that show, like, and I loved being down in Texas. I had a good time in Texas. I think one of the shows, I was stuck in an elevator on New Year's in Dallas or Houston, one of them, and I was like, "This is like," everyone was just so much fun. I remember that. So, yeah, I love the town.
so we get to the London sessions here, and I just have to unreleased songs available for download and streaming Tuesday, April 16, 2024.
Mm.
The singles Red, Unattainable Love, and Some of Us Now available on Apple, Spotify, and all streaming platforms. And then it goes on to say here uh, need fan merchandise or missing her album on your favorite streaming platform? Email Jill directly at
Oh,
jilljonesmusic at
wow.
gmail.com. So
Okay.
there you go.
Directly. Okay, that's good to know.
Uh, so the London sessions.
Mhm.
Everything that I read about it, it took place what between maybe 87 and 89.
Yeah.
The sessions themselves.
Mhm.
I know there was probably more songs on there that I read about that like aren't on this.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true. There
yeah.
aren't.
So I know the guys did this with you the other night, but
Mhm.
I'm going to do it with you again here. So let's go like track by track. Deep Kiss. Where did it come from? Where did the idea come from? What's it all about?
It was a cover. I mean, it was a cover that I sang. The song was written by Louise Goff, and I forget the other person, songwriter on that. But I had heard that. I'd heard the song either through my manager's office or somebody had, sometimes people send a lot of songs and you get to hear them. And yeah, I was considering doing it. And it was on top of my list. I think it just resonated with me because, I didn't get to say this the other night, but I don't think that everyone saw me as a big person to write big hit singles. And I never have really. So when you're in this game, I think that's why they bring in like writers. And even to this day, there's like so many writers on songs, but they'll always throw in a top line writer. And that's that top line that, people hear the hook. And nowadays, you'll sometimes find yourself probably driving and hear a top line and go, that sounds like another top line and another top line and another top line, because they kind of regurgitate top lines. Back in those days, there were still legitimate writers. Louise Goffin is the daughter of Carole King, so she was still writing like this really lovely song. I think she even had it on one of her records. But I just thought, I wanted to do that song, and it was kind of an in between. Like, here you go. Here's kind of a single for you.
Hmm. Uh,
Essentially.
Unattainable Love. I wrote this lyric down. We run from those who try to tame the fire. Um, and then it goes on.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about the French boy. the other day.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
Christoph.
so
Christoph, le petit Christoph, yeah. No, he was a great guy. We just were too young and
right.
not, no.
Obviously, you said that was song was about basically that relationship, and I know you talked about
Mhm.
Hawaii, and you still. I want to find that stick, by the way, that you wrote that
I
on.
know.
Um,
I have a picture of that stick somewhere in my, I swear to you, one day I'm going to put it up.
so
And
you just feeling the other. Did it just pour out of you the lyrics for this particular song?
yeah, it's like, when you have a relationship like that, you can't get to the meat of it. Like, you just can't have it. And also, it was a little difficult too, because poor Christoph, I mean, I got to say, he was the one living in this fabulous apartment that I had in New York. We had a great apartment that Prince paid for because I was always working there, and it came off of my tab, but it was still a really great place. A lot of times you'll hear that like Vivica Fox was one of my roommates. I asked her to move in, but what was so cool about that house is that there were so many comings and goings in there, like so many talented young people in the 80s at that time. Like you can, now see you know, like I think one of his friends was Cassell, the actor Vincent Cassell, and those people. So they were young wild boys living and in the city of New York in the 80s. And I had a special phone that was on the side of my bed. That was the Prince phone. That phone was the one that no one could answer if it rang at all. And I think it was just really hard to go out with somebody who was still kind of, whose heart was still kind of in between, dating whatever my thing it was with Prince at that time. So I have to give Christoph a little credit for maybe he just was just like, this is too much. This is just like ridiculous. It's kind
I
of
mean,
one.
1989. I mean, Batman came out, so it was like the Bat phone, basically.
Yeah, it was. It was completely.
Uh,
So
Living Legend. I heard you talk about it the other night. You said it was sort of a sarcastic song.
totally.
Sort of explain.
Everybody I met in that era of time, it was, they were really serious about staking their claim. There were a lot of iconic artists at the time. George Michael, there was Prince, there was Michael Jackson, Madonna. They all kind of had the same profile, though, the same kind of makeup. And when I
Hmm.
look back now, I think I can see it. There's a very strong gene that they carry. A lot of times I was like, maybe it's because they all had the same certain astrological aspects of being born in certain eras and things like that, because I love astrology. But and it's possible but that they did, but they were so when I wrote Living Legend, you know, I mean, my belief system is that your legacy is not based upon anything material. I know that we all try to say that this is how we push it, but your legacy is based upon the good deeds that you do in life and how you touch people. And really, intimately, they carry your name. They carry your stories and certainly. But for me, yeah, living legend. They all wanted to be living legends and just really be so curated, hyper curated. Don't answer the phone. Don't wear this, do that. That was a lot. It was a lot that I think they looked back at the older stars like from the 50s and that whole like Prince definitely was into the whole studio system of how stars were created. But, on another level, it just was when you start trying to duplicate something over and over, it kind of loses something. It does. and
I
and
got you.
then they just became like kind of weird parodies and caricatures. It's so strange. So for me, and hiding things, it's where secrets go and die when you start doing stuff like that.
Now, Michael Jackson and I share the same birthday. We're August 29th, so we're both Virgo.
Virgo.
Yeah.
Virgo.
Unfortunately, um, so the
The French
next.
boy was a Virgo too.
Oh my God! Oh God! Don't tell me that.
No, really. Everybody's got to have a Virgo at least once in their life, right?
Yeah, you can throw me into that category. So, Long time. The next song. I heard you say the other night that it was relationship based. It was basically about saying goodbyes.
Yeah.
How so? How so?
That was, after the fire, so a lot of
Right.
goodbyes were final.
Mhm.
So it just, and now I think about it, listening to those lyrics, I'm like, it's been a long time. A long time when you're 24, 25 is like, a year, but that phase of time seemed excessively long. That, it was the first time I'd kind of just really had to, I don't know, I made some bad moves, and I realized a lot about myself too. I was incredibly spiteful at the end of that relationship, and because I was so angry about the loss. And yeah, you do things to finalize it, like really finalize it. Um so when you do that, there's no way back. It's like when you
Mhm.
really burn a bridge with a person. And I did that. I totally did it. So because I think for me, I had been kind of patterned into going back and forth and back and forth, and I had severe abandonment issues, um, and huge forgiveness issues, and lacking boundaries. So for me, it was either being incredibly angry or yelling or screaming or leaving something. Disappearing was another one. Those are just, tactics of not being able to really confront something head on. So long time was exactly all of that.
Okay. Yeah, I can relate. Next song is it's White Dogs, right?
Hmm.
Okay, and that was about is it Cuckoo and Gertie?
Yep, Cuckoo and
Yeah.
Gertie, my two little
Um,
bugs.
Now, did you still have them at the time, or they were
They
gone?
passed away in the fire.
Fire. Okay, so this is basically is it a goodbye song? Was it a healing song?
It was the catalyst that
Hmm.
was like, it's time, all of this whole phase of your life is over, because they represented such a arc of, it was my final arc in that whole Prince world, in all of it, in with the boyfriends, with all of it. It was like, this is it, it's done. Because that night, driving back up, and then the streets were really dark, and this fire apparently had been on the news. It
Hmm.
was really bad. And I just lost it, like, coming, and I still remember it. I was with my friend Lisa, and actually it was my friend Carter who went and took care of everything, like removing everything. And I think for me, just, it was a sign that everything had to change.
All right.
And that's when Roger and the management and everybody sent me, afterwards, after I stayed at Tina's for a while, they orchestrated where then I went to London and started working.
And this is what I love about Jill Jones so much, ladies and gentlemen. She's transparent. She opens up. Um, Now the next song, "Some of Us," is just this is my favorite that I listen to. Uh,
Thanks.
this is the lyric that I wrote down. Some of us ain't old enough for fire. Some of us take a chance. Some of us are crazy with desire. Some of us want to dance.
Yes.
Um, you want to
You can
expound
wink
upon
it.
it? Yeah, you want to expound? Some of us want to dance still.
I had a that was the phase in that whole part of working with everybody in the session, where it was just a fun moment, and it was sort of a reprieve for them to not be like, oh my god, she just sang White Dogs and she's really upset, because you're dealing with people who are grieving. But yeah, it was just based off of, like, Chris Bruce and I had a track, and then the guys in this project took it and transformed it into this funky little magic song. And it was just, I think it was me pulling in the professional aspect of, like, um I have to pull it together here. I can't fall all the way apart here. Like, there's people who I have to give them what they want. So it kind of leaned more into, um yeah, it leaned more into what people were familiar with. And the guys working on the project knew exactly the Prince era of doing funkiness, and they enjoyed it.
Right. Angel, I saw he had a couple of comments there from the Penguin AZ. He says, "What's up, Jill Jones? We'll have to check out your music." And then he goes on to say, "I've always enjoyed music that expresses the feelings at the moment or talk about life experiences." Yeah, that's what
Thank
music's
you.
all about. Next song is Red. I just jotted from the interview you did the other day. I just jotted down the note "mastering minefields," and I
Yeah.
put it in quotations.
Yes.
So, how did Red come about? Again, you're talking 88, 89,
Yeah.
written in. So, you're still going through what you were going through, and this was just your way of saying, "Yeah, I got to master how to get through this."
I was dealing with Prince on that at that
Okay.
level every day, even when I was in London. Um, because you have to understand, I had taken my stuff and myself where once with the first record and everything, I had Steve Farnoli as a manager, same manager as him, all of this stuff. But even that was just kind of thrown together. It was it was so non-committal even on that level. Only, although Steve and I were really close friends, but I just suddenly, after I did the video Mia Boca for the first record, and I met
Hmm.
all those French people in that circle of Jean Baptiste Mondino, my friend Sophie Bramley, who had Yo MTV Raps, these people became really integral with introducing me to other people. And I got to hear other truths and other stories. Fab Five Freddy, there were other people that started to have real conversations and ask me real things like, are you just going to stay stuck up in Minneapolis? I mean, what are you going to be doing? Like, this is taking too long for your record and your second album. So dealing with um, you know, the intensity of Prince, therefore being a little punitive about what I was choosing to do, that's where Red came from.
Right, because
Straight up,
I've
just
seen,
so mad.
mhm. And I've seen you say in previous interviews that you wanted to talk about more adult stuff, and then the other person who I try not to bring up, um,
Right.
he still wanted to go in the direction where he envisioned you. But I've got to be honest. You know, when I listen to two, I'm like, that's Jill Jones. Um, the I am stuff again. It's upbeat. It's
It was
you got to
from
make
a
it.
writer perspective. You're right. It was
Yeah,
totally not like disco diva in my house. You're absolutely right.
right. And then we get to Tango. I just after I listened to everything and I got to Tango and I listened to it, I have in quotations, she's lightening up.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was a little goofy on that song. Um, you know, really feeling myself, having fun. Yeah, started to lighten up. That was written over there. So, uh, yeah, I think Tango might be I don't know if I really like myself lightened up. That's the
Hmm.
crazy part because I was so used to the dark Jill that a lighter Jill was really scared the hell out of me. In fact, it could be why I couldn't sing songs that were like, you know, really upbeat and pop. It was like I have said that it was like a bad blood transfusion because I think when you get into such a negative spiral and you're just, not in a good place or the things around you, you don't recognize or you don't trust being happy. For as perfect as I was for this industry was every reason why I was so bad for it, if that
Right.
makes any sense at all.
Hmm. Yeah, it
Because
does.
yeah,
Your buddy Neil Billinus says, "Great interview." Uh, I see here. Heart,
thanks,
heart, heart.
Neil.
So before we get into Purple Rain,
Hmm.
a couple of things I jotted down from like previous interviews, which I really related to because you've been through it. I've been through it too, on a certain level. Angel knows the story. I've come through the darkness. I've come through hell. Um,
Hmm.
One of the things you talked about the other day was about the hospitalization because you had a blood clot.
Yeah.
Um, I speak from experience to say I've got myself in a lot of trouble. I'm a worrywart. I'm a Virgo, right?
Yeah, you are.
So when you worry too much, and we're also stubborn Virgos, um, if you don't see another way and you keep doing it your way, it tends to like your health starts to suffer. And I heard you talk about a broken heart. You
Yeah.
know, you get your heart stepped on a lot of times, and it's over and over and over again. Yeah, I mean, you could die of a broken heart.
Well, when I had the before I had the blood clot, what happened is, of course, I was married. I was married to um, a man by the name of Cameron Alborzian. He was male model who is now a yogi. He went on the path and started studying Ayurvedic medicine, etc. But we were really quite young when I think about having a new baby. We had bought a house in Paris. We were renovating it. We'd never lived in it. My mom, I had a new deal with a band. Uh, Gee, I don't know. Then my mom became terminally ill. So
Mm,
everything that was happening in London while I was going back and forth dealing with the house in France, I had to come back and in New York and help my mom. And I think there were a little bit of like issues about that. I think if it happened when I was a little older, I would have understood how to navigate this situation. But in my mind, it's like, I have to be there for this person. And that was so conflicted because my mom had been, kind of, I grew up with my grandparents for like most of my 12 and up to 12 and 13 and moved with my mom later. So I had a lot of mixed emotions about going back and feeling this. Um, it's like, I was angry again, conflicted. This is what a daughter is going to do. What's going to happen to my career? They tried to hang in there with me. Even they didn't dump me straight away, but I was kind of like just bitchy to everybody. And I even
mm,
had like bitchy to the A&R people, bitchy to my band. I didn't know how to process the emotion of what was happening. And then there's this weird thing that starts to happen when somebody's terminal and you have the nurses coming in and out, and it's like it becomes normal. Like that's your normal life and you don't think it's ever going to end. You
mm,
don't know. It's normal. You come, you've got your baby, you do this, da 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 da. And so, in the middle of getting the blood clot, yeah, I think my heart was just broken my marriage couldn't survive all of that. It just couldn't. It couldn't take it. And I've often felt very, very guilty about all of it. Just the bad timing. And it took me years to parse through every single bit of it and who to blame, and then you're in therapy, you're like, well, I have to blame myself, obviously, right? But you know people add to your problems in life.
mm, mm,
We do that to each other, and we need to stop it. We need to
mm,
be a little more self-aware, and also just we add to each other's pain. And I'm not going to take what a therapist keeps saying about, oh no, well, suck it up, deal with it. And I thought I had to. But as I've gotten older, it's like, no, I don't have to. People add to it's not my projection or how I'm interpreting it. If I'm telling you that I'm in pain, you know, I'm in pain with it. But I don't know. That was hard. So yeah, the blood clot, because they had no idea why I
right.
had it. You know, they were like,
Well,
were you moving furniture? What have you been doing? Yeah.
just to piggyback off that, I think compassion and empathy are two lost arts. You just don't see it anymore. And you know why? Because of these things.
Yeah.
We just people just don't practice empathy and compassion anymore. They'd rather not deal with stuff on that kind of level. Um,
We don't,
and-
because also we get more response from people when we kick them in the ass.
yeah,
It's like even today, I was totally bitchy to somebody online. And that's like, I sometimes have to go, whoa, step down, chief. That's a lot, like, because there's a payoff that's happening. And I had to check myself, like, yo, bitch, what are you doing to these people? Like, why are you doing this? You don't know them.
yeah.
And, but I started to feel like there's a payoff here that I'm getting from this. And it still means I have a lot of work to do. And you're right. It's these things. It's terrible.
My dad always used to say, and an angel has heard, He says this. My dad always used to say, "Nobody gives a shit unless it's happening in their own backyard. If it's happening in somebody else's backyard, whatever." But they start giving a shit when it filters over into their backyard. So,
He's right. He's absolutely right. I mean, I think the reason I'm dealing with the fact that I'm a super empath, which, and the other day I was like sitting there talking to a friend of mine, like going, do therapists really know what they're talking about? Because I fit the criteria of somebody who's been overly nurtured. And yet, to a degree, I was, but to another degree, I was completely neglected and an afterthought for many people. So I found relationships where I was an afterthought. I
mhm,
was the dessert that you kind of go, I don't know if I feel like tiramisu. It was like, and I found all of that my whole life until my first marriage and my second marriage. Even though the first one fell apart, I can honestly say that it was not somebody I pursued.
mhm,
It, they, they were the hunter and I was the one that they pursued. And that felt pretty fucking good for a change, excuse my
yeah,
language, because
let it
as,
fly.
as a woman in this in this world at this point, it's like when you are pursuing, that's how you write songs like Unattainable Love. And then you're convincing when you're pursuing. So for me, it's like no, and it's just not that doesn't work for me because it throws the table the tie the it becomes unstable for me. It just does.
The other thing that really resonated with me and I sort of connected with you is I've heard you in other interviews talk about being an outlier, being secondary. That immediately resonated in my head because that's the way I felt all my life, basically.
So
Small
sorry.
town, small town of 5,000 people.
Yep.
Never really felt like I fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in Purple Rain, but it's what's the quote from Pretty Woman, where they're lying in bed together and she looks at him and says, "People start to put you down often enough, you start to believe all the bad stuff."
Yes.
So, but that really resonated with me, and you being that transparent, I was like, wow, I'm not a unicorn.
No. I mean, that's why I said in the other interview the other day that, when Prince would make a feast out of saying, you're not really that special. It was turned into how my hair got made
Hmm.
blonde was
Hmm.
because I was told I wasn't really that special. And if it was between me and vanity walking into a room, well, no one would really notice me. So those kind of things, these are people who are like, they're supposed to be my friend or the person that I'm dating at some point here. What the hell is happening? Um, and you do believe it, sadly. It's called the slap and stroke method, is what I was
Hmm.
told later on by, people, that's what that is. Slap and stroke.
Us men, we can be such jackasses sometimes.
And so
Let's
can
get.
women.
Oh
We
yeah,
can
yeah. Let's get to Purple Rain now.
Mhm.
And I just want to say this: Purple Rain 40th anniversary film screening, Sunday, May 26, 2024. Doors open at 4 p.m. The screening is at 5. 18 and over at the Regent, 448 Main Street, Los Angeles 90013. You tickets at footlongdevelopment.com. Q&A panel after Purple Rain screening. It's hosted by the Prince historian Jeremiah Dr. Funkenberry Freed. It's also featuring you, Jerome Benton, Andre Simone, and some special guests. And I'm sure there's other celebrities that are going to show up.
It is.
So,
I see that. I'm looking at it here on my phone.
so
I'm going to get my
the
glasses.
19 the tour gets done for 1999.
Hmm.
Um, I know Des Dickerson was already leaving. Um, when does Prince come to you and say, "Sorry, but this is the direction I'm going to go in"?
Uh, when the direction for the tour, to not be on the tour.
No, like the tour's over with, and of course we're now leading into Purple Rain. Des Dickerson was leaving, from what I
Right.
gathered. Um,
Hmm.
when does he come to you and say, "Well, Des is left. I'm keeping Bobby. I'm keeping blah 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 blah. But I'm hiring Wendy, and this is the direction I'm going to go with. Without you, you are
Oh,
not going to be."
he never
He
told me
never
that.
did. He
I
never
knew
told
Wendy,
you.
I knew
Wow.
Wendy was going to move in because she was on the tour with us during the 1999 tour. She came out
Uh,
and she would sit, and if Des didn't show up anywhere, for if he was a little bit late, Wendy was Johnny on the spot. She was the Eve Harrington of
mm-hmm,
music. Okay, and I love her to death, but she just was in the right place at the right time. And I think Prince saw that Des was making his moves, and he couldn't reciprocate what Des needed all the way. So it was easier to just let the chips fall where they were going to fall during that tour. But yeah, he didn't tell me that. It was
uh,
all during that whole thing where we were in the summer and we were um, learning how to dance and studying for the script, and Bill Blinn came up, and then another man came up, and we were learning, getting acting lessons. So yeah, that was something that he knew in his mind what he wanted, and it was still on board that I was going to do an album and it was going to come out, but it was contingent on my exposure in Purple Rain, which ended up on the cutting room floor, the song that I
mhm.
sang. So yeah, all of it was always I was the tiramisu.
So as all this is going on, is everybody like, "What? No, pardon my French. What in the fuck are we doing?"
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all a little bit, it was funny. I loved acting classes. And actually, in that dance class, Prince was like, "You're really good at dance." It's like, I really, I should really rethink, like, why was he telling me and Jerome were like the best ones? Maybe because, it's so interesting because Jerome and I had the least leverage of all.
Mm-hmm.
Yet now it feels like we were totally getting hosed with those compliments. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jerome like adored him and would do anything. He was a really good friend to him. And and yes, he carried that through with Under the Cherry Moon and everything, but when you look back, it's not I would be crazy to say that I don't reevaluate some of the conversations now, because now I hear other people say something and something and something, or I hear somebody else explaining Prince's rap game on, how he would chat them up or this one. And it suddenly makes you go, wait a minute. That's the same shtick I got. And what's really crazy is I was talking to a girlfriend the other day. I said the saddest part of all is like the reason there have been so many women clamoring to say, I was the one he loved. I was the one he loved. He loved me most. He loved me, me, is because I think there's this really sad thing about um, everybody having to maybe look and go, maybe he didn't love anybody really but
Mm-hmm.
himself. Because I don't know if you ever saw The Man Who Loved Women, the one in French. Like it's a really wonderful story, and it's his funeral and all the women are there. I remember thinking about that film. I think it's Truffaut. That that was by Truffaut, and I remember just like at when we were doing all these memorials, like all these women, I was like, oh my god, this is just like that movie, The Man Who Loved Women, and everybody was there, and everybody had a story. It was like, oh my god. So yeah, I don't I don't know where he found the time or libido. I don't know.
Now, were you at the? It was I think it was August of '83. Were you at First Avenue for the benefit concert at all?
I don't. It's kind of a
Or-
blur
Okay,
with
because I know I
Merce and
know.
everything.
Yeah.
We Prince and I had a fight right before he went on tour, so it's still a blur. That whole era of because I didn't really see anything that he did with his tour for Purple Rain
Mm-hmm.
legitimately until like a show that he did at the Forum with the Purple Rain tour here in Los Angeles, and we actually were okay friends during that point. There were other visits, but we just weren't speaking, you know.
So you're going through all this shit, taking dance lessons, taking acting classes, XYZ.
Hmm.
Um, was it drama? I mean, was it drama ridden? Because this one's talking about that one, and this person's doing this, and that person's doing that. It seemed like he had all his friends in the movie, basically, but it just seemed like it was a shit show behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the girl who was teaching us all how to dance was somebody he was seeing as well, Katie Lasley, lovely girl, Korean American girl. And she was teaching us all how to dance. This was when V was still there, Vanity, Denise was
Hmm.
still there. And I mean, that was, Minneapolis was a really small town. It was kind of easy to see who was going out with who. And that was a little bit much to chew on. you know, I don't think V appreciated it very much, as nor did any of us. Some of us went along and go, okay, we'll suck it up and we'll deal with it. But when you think about it, it's like, wow, the audacity. And then the whole thing was, well, you're going to be movie stars. You're going to be, what do you want? So, but there were plenty of other dance teachers who could have taught us rather than this kind of perverse weird thing of like this chick teaching all the women he's gone out with how to dance. It really, and I think it actually, I think those kind of beratings, lining the women up in that way next to this skinny little ballerina. I think that it had a lot to do with maybe why the exit happened
Hmm.
with Denise, because there's really and saying, hey, I want more money on my value. I respected her for how she valued herself. It was, she had the world at her string. I mean, she did. What an amazing person. I didn't always get along with Denise. She and I fought like cats, like two cats sometimes, but I respected her. I remember once I was in a store shopping, and somebody came into my dressing room and opened it up, and it was her, and she goes, hey, look, I got boob job, I got a boob job, you want to see? Like, it was so funny. And but I adored her because we all went through the trenches. End of story. We just did. And we saw each other go through these things of the push and the pull. And when maybe Denise would have an opportunity that was coming her way, when Scorsese wanted her for his film, um, then you could see how Prince would intercept and offer something else. And these things were, you know, not cool. And I respect her for having the strength to choose herself. And
I
then
mean, it
another
almost.
really weird thing that happened with her, mine and her relationship. Years had passed, and one day we were both on the same airplane, sitting side by side.
Mm,
I came into the plane and I saw her, and I went, "Oh my god!" And she was sitting there, and we talked a lot about. This was after her Action Jackson era.
gotcha. So I have to ask you about the scene with Apollonia in Purple Rain. How
Mm.
much of it was acting, and how much of it was like?
At that time, it was pretty. Oh my god! As much as I really adore Apollonia today, I
Mhm.
just didn't understand her completely. I
But she wasn't.
found
She wasn't a singer. She wasn't a singer.
no, but she would come across so nice and so like on set nice, like hello Jill, oh my gosh, and I guess I was just foreign to somebody being that nice. She's coming onto a set that she didn't understand the dynamics. Do you understand? Like, this girl got transplanted into all this dysfunctional stuff. And I feel bad for her when I think about it. It's like we were already like, who is she and what's going to happen? Like, it was really like, uh, yeah, it's like it was like the new animal who came on the animal farm, and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, well, you had already lined up who were your alliances, and yeah, it was a high stress living. But now I understand her. She's very much like going to go by the book, going to be as diplomatic as she can. That's just her way. She believes what she believes. It doesn't often, we don't sometimes see eye to eye on some things. Like, she says she wrote one of my songs, and I'm like, you didn't, because, but here's the rub. This is the funny part about Prince. She goes, well, Prince had called her and said, oh, yeah, when Jill sang this Spanish part in the song, um, yeah, I had to call her. She said he called her. Well, he called her like 4 years later. And I'm not disputing that he didn't call her. But
Hmm.
the crazy thing is, why would he pretend to do something like that? What was that need for that conversation when the song had been recorded 4 years previous? So, as my mother always said, beware of pillow talk. And not even pillow talk. It just comes down to sometimes your friends just say things to other people, and it means that they're telling a lie. They're not being truthful. They're not being straight up. He's a great
I,
manipulator.
I mean,
We
did at
called
any point?
Spanish restaurant. We're calling restaurants, and it was the busboys who gave us those words
Gotcha.
actually.
At any point during the filming, did he say that you were going to have a bigger part than what you did?
Yes, and I did. For all intents and purposes, I did, but it all got cut up. Next thing I know, I'm holding Cuckoo in the middle of the movie, and they drugged him up so much he couldn't even like see straight. Although Prince was
Oof.
really upset about that.
Mm,
But yeah, that that was what happened.
okay. At the end of the movie, he comes out because he doesn't think the song went over well, and he's out behind the club and he's in the alleyway, and then he turns around and you're there. Real tears, or did they like spritz you up with stuff, or when you're like
I don't
hi?
know. I had a lot to
No,
cry about back then.
yeah.
You know.
So I didn't know if it was because he turns around and he's like hi, and you're like hi, and you're crying a little bit. So
Yeah. Well, when they edit he, I think you got a shot from over my shoulder, and then when they shoot my part, it's like you can't see him. I'm standing here and the film is there. So they just wait for you to get emotional, and then they
I got you.
make that, then clip it together.
Now was that filmed in First Avenue? Or was that filmed in L.A.? Do you remember?
No, that was in First Avenue.
It was in First Avenue.
I didn't film anything in LA. Nothing.
Okay.
I didn't have any
So
shots here.
we're talking about Purple Rain, and I was talking to Angel and the other Jill, um, behind the scenes, and the movie is really important to me, and the song especially Purple Rain. And as I was telling them, I was going through a hard time in my life at that particular juncture. It was I hadn't seen the movie yet.
Hmm.
I didn't have even bought the album. I just wanted to see the movie, and I just remember I was on a date. Um, and we're sitting there and we're watching the movie, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a little bit more in depth than I thought. And when it gets to the end of the movie, Jill, and I had never heard the song yet, and I heard the song, and I just, I might tear up now. I
Hmm.
lost it. I lost it because it was a song of my life up to that point, and it still is. And I just remember she's looking at me. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just
Oh
like,
no.
it was a first date. She had just broken up
I
with
was gonna
somebody,
say.
and I thought to myself, I'm never going to get a second date after this because I'm crying in a movie. And of course, I never got a second date. But
Oh no, really? You didn't?
no, just seeing the movie,
Wow.
Jill, it was
Yeah.
just like, my parents were going through sort of the similar thing what you saw on screen,
Hmm.
and I didn't fit in anywhere. And when I saw the movie, I'm just like, when they were in the club, that's where I felt most comfortable at the time. Because
Wow.
I
Yeah.
played sports, but then after we got done with a game, like the underage club boom was just coming into
It
play,
was
like
totally.
under 18, and
Hmm.
that's where I felt most comfortable because I love to dance. And you
Hmm.
go to the underage club, and it was just like this melting pot of all these eclectic ethnicities, and that's where I felt comfortable. And after the movie, I was like, finally, somebody gets it. Um, when I was crying at the end of the movie, and then I see you crying at the end, that
Yeah.
makes me cry more. I see everybody crying, and that's why the movie's just so important to me. And especially the song. And it's like I was telling those two, every freaking time, Jill, I hear the song. I mean, I could be eating ice cream in my
Oh
truck,
my God.
and that
Yeah.
song comes on, and I just start. There they come. It just
Well,
the
it does
tears.
hit all the chakras, doesn't it? I mean, it's an emotional song, I think. And I think he did nail it. I think he and Al Magnoli, they got what was happening culturally for a lot of us and tapped into the audience very well, what we were all experiencing with our family members. Um, and also just, I think it was a part of the time where we were, how we all would soothe ourselves or find solace and comfort. And we were, I think a lot more social than the young people today during that time. We really relied on our comrades and our colleagues, and, you know, and it was face to face. And so the song for me was always a beautiful song. I
Right.
can't mistake that. No way. It was just gorgeous.
And I have to ask you, take me with you. How much is
Mhm.
Apollonia? How much is Lisa and you?
Oh,
I know you probably don't want to give it away, but I know they had to do a lot of doubling. So you don't have to answer. You don't have to answer. But somebody who listens to
but
music all the time, you can tell.
you know what? I will say one thing. He wouldn't have written that style of song if it hadn't have been for her voice, because
Hmm.
that was the curious thing. He could take somebody who wasn't like a no like perfect singer and work with the quirks and work with the whatever, and then of course sustain it with other people around. And so I think that a lot of people forget that he maybe wouldn't have written those if it wasn't about the fact that he was trying to not have somebody who was going to sound like Nasty Girl or Vanity and all of that, but to reshape it, and it turned into this jingly jangly kind of tune. It's so funny that he, you know picked that for her, and it was the right time. But I don't, yeah, I think there was, and we were there to support her. I
Hmm.
hope she never feels that anybody's trying to take anything away from her by
Right.
saying that she didn't sing on something, but we were only there as support.
Couple of things, and then we'll let you get out of here and feed your cat and take a nap.
They've been fed, don't worry, they're totally fine. That's why I was like 2 minutes late.
Talk
Oh,
about animal rescue. How much are you into it? Finding, I know cats' homes. I know you're really heavy into that. Talk a little bit. Is that what you do in your spare time? What does Jill Jones do in her spare time?
oh my God. These days,
I know
I
you
guess
said you're a hermit.
I'm pretty much a hermit, and I do, like I said, I mentioned I suffer sometimes with agoraphobia. I'm okay now. I'm going out a little more. I make myself go out. Um, I really spend a lot of time with animals as much as I can. Like today, I was trying to figure out how to get this one dog in my car while I was out, but it didn't work out. But yeah, I just think I should probably run. Oh, look at this beauty, a little tupsy. That's like my little Paloma. Wow, wait, that's the Hemingway cats.
He's
Six
got
toes.
he's got thumbs.
Yes, he does. Amazing. So yeah, I'm into animals. At one point, yeah, we'll see. Whatever I end up doing at this point, I don't know. I used to do advertising and marketing more, and now I'm just kind of like in flux at the moment. I don't really know what I want to do anymore, to be honest.
So I will let you go after this. Um, I'm going to throw something different at you. So you remember James Litton inside the actor studio?
Yes.
He would hit them with the 10 questions at the end.
Hmm.
That's what I'm going to do tonight
Okay,
to
because
close it out.
all
Yeah.
right. Oh
So
boy.
question number one: what's your favorite word?
Mm. Um, I'd say love is a great word. Love.
What's your least favorite word?
Um, oh, um, wait, there is a word that I really can't stand, and I can't think of it at the moment. Can we come back to it? I'll think of
Yeah.
it in a minute. Okay.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Spiritually, um, signs, messages that I think are signs, like oddities, serendipitous occasions, things that just seem like, whoa, yeah, that's what gets me.
What turns you off?
Um, Controlling people.
What's your favorite curse word?
Um, I guess fuck is my favorite word. I use it all the time. These
There you
fucking
go.
people. Yeah.
What sound or noise do you love?
Rain.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Uh, that leaf blower. I hate it.
Oh, sorry.
You have a leaf
that's,
blower.
that's a good one. Um,
Every time you blow your leaf blower, you'll know now that she hates
now I know. That damn Jill.
it.
um, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Sociologist.
Ooh, there you go. What
Hmm.
profession would you not like to do?
Janitor.
Mm. And the final one, if heaven
I'm not a good
exists,
cleaner, though.
what's that?
I'm not a good cleaner.
That's okay.
Hell for everybody.
And then the final one, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I've been waiting for you.
There you go. Jill, I want to thank you. See, I told you it wouldn't be a 2.5 hour marathon.
No, it would have
Uh,
been okay if it was. You
but
know.
thank you so much for doing this. Takes me back to a better part of my childhood or my teen years.
Yeah.
Um, Again, thank you Oh, tell the people where they might get in contact with you, where they can reach you.
Oh,
You can check out your stuff.
yes. I know the music is Jill Jones. It's on all platforms. You can find me on Instagram, Jill Jones Official or Jill Jones Music. I don't know. Sometimes I change the name, but I'm there. Um, Facebook, it's the same. Yeah, I'm around. It's just Twitter. That's the word I don't like. I don't like. I I could deal without Twitter. I think it's a nightmare. That's what a way to destroy a word. Wow, what a cute little word turned into something so heinous, right?
No,
Twitter.
it's not Twitter anymore. It's X.
Yeah, and that's even worse. Like, excrement.
There Jill, thank you so much again. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the other Jill for setting this up.
Yeah.
Thanks
And
to
next
you
time have me
too.
on to talk sports. I mean, we did, yeah, somehow. Yeah. Yes, I want to come back, especially if we're talking about soccer, football, because my team's guy is leaving. Liverpool, Jurgen
You're
Klopp.
a Liverpool fan? Oh, we got a
Mhm.
problem now. We got.
What are you, Man
I'm
United?
I'm an Arsenal fan.
Oh, Arsenal. Whoa, yeah, good team though.
Yeah, your boy Jurgen Klopp is leaving.
He's leaving. I know. Hey, that's the way it
I,
goes.
I'm gonna have to when it comes down to Liverpool and Arsenal at the end of the year for the English Premier League title. I'm gonna start have to giving you a little couple jabs.
Okay, that's fine. I'll give it back.
Angel, you can take us out. Everybody have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you,
I
Jill.
really appreciate it
Thank
so
you.
much.